Welcome to the lovely IHP paid and free subscriber community. Those who are in our 5D collective of mystics, spiritual, mindfully living, loving people. So you like to do the inner growth mindset, the daily practices. You can become a paid subscriber, and there's a couple new ones from last week. This past week, it's over. Happy 4th of July to any of you who celebrate. And if you're tuning in, then you will want to go to the IHP homepage. So the inner growth mindset helps the people who own their ventral vagal state, meaning you own your nervous system, and therefore you're not a mediocre, emotionally immature person. Because emotionally immature people are all the ones who are disregarding getting their nervous system taken to Patrick Chan with their child parts, to Pat Ogden, to good therapists out there, and more, and healing what is their brokenness. And that's not something funny, but it's also not something funny to actually continue to hear them judging my brothers and sisters. So all 8 billion people and growing have an embodied brain, and if they don't know kindness, then I know they have need for Patrick Chan and Terriel so they can become very bare minimum functional adults. I have no brokenness. I have a functional child adult, so IHP is for those people. We heal trauma seriously, not pretend, and we also say yes, Jesus, God, Holy Spirit. We do love our brothers and sisters and know there's no Lucifer. Thanks to Patrick McNamara, he's proving it consistently with data. And the ones who already proved that epilepsy is not the wrath of the gods, thank you Hippocrates for letting the doctors of the time know that it wasn't the wrath of the gods. So today we also know that fragmented states of self are not choices, and that not all scientists believe in their science colleagues. But what will give it away that they're pseudo-intellectuals and I'm pseudoscience for a reason. But these scientists who say, I've never seen a medium ever and I know everything. Or a mystic who says, I know the devil and demons. It's anyone who sounds like they know all this stuff, like the back of their hand, and this like, that's very much clear. You got an adaptive child in the room. They're Peter Pans who follow around Wendy's. So you can allow the in and out group mediocre people to just continue doing what they're doing. They have stories for you. They don't want to work on their nervous system. That's why they don't get maturity. So they want love. They want pats on the back. We don't give them pats on the back, but we do give love, because any emotionally mature person knows how to accept, love, and respect all just the way they are. Also, God taught me how not to play a know-it-all and how to leave it alone. And here is where Dan Mortel, thank you so much for the quote. The most dangerous person in your life is the one who makes you feel comfortable with mediocrity. The dangerous people for lovely religious groups, they don't listen to the Dalai Lama and how, we all want compassionate human beings. They also continue to deny decentralizing the self as our biology, which is ridiculous. I mean, it's explainable, and it is also something that is proving that all of our embodied brains are headed towards that which Jesus had already shared. The kingdom of God is within us. So when you meet people who are resisting that which is, thank you, Dr. Amy, what was it? So when the body's security system is consistently asking, am I safe or not? That's where Amy from the biology podcast, let me grab my notes right here. She answers a question about why patients, this is a person who's a therapist, resist treatment. And she's like, well, it's not about them really sabotaging, is that their body's just so used to being in the dysregulated. Yes, I know all about it. So there's no evil, Knievel, medieval embodying anyone. And while sometimes I'll say we embody Jesus, we embody Buddha, that's not, I don't mean it like literally. I mean the essence of, or basically sometimes I just fuck up with words, okay? So people are going to take shit out of context. We already know who the stingy ones are, because that's where I make fun of people too. But I make fun of them. I don't actually think I know everything of what they were going to say, because I don't. I know their 1 minute asshole shorts, like lack of imagination for evil, which makes my butthole laugh, because there's no imagination. I mean, not my intelligent mind, obviously, because I'm not deluded by Maria's imagination, and I'm not influenced by my memory, implicit, explicit, or biases. Mediocrity are emotionally immature people and mystics and spiritual and any and all who want love. They want you to accept them. They want you to be only what their group says. So they're going to give you a rule book like adaptive child part people do, rigidity, and then they're going to give you their breadcrumb trails like Hansel and Gretel. And you're going to be like, wow, that's amazing, but you're not a part of their group. And then they're going to be like, why aren't you? And you say, it's not a losing strategy, Terriel. It's just really, excuse me, you're confusing science, spirituality, self-righteousness, ego. Anybody who's mediocre, you can tell a mile away because they don't know what they're talking about. Because they don't know how to handle themselves in their ventral vagal state. Yes, they do not want to work with that. They say, I have real emotions by getting, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's distress on a screen. It's dangerous to have no emotions. Oh, I have plenty of them. I just don't do distress. That's why the inner growth mindset is for people who understand this. I deal with unknowns, uncertainties, unexpecteds from Maria's open heart. It's a self-agent you see in front of you. And I do have the same subcortical area that you do. I just don't get angry because God takes care of it. And he taught me how not to play a know-it-all. And Jesus taught me how to forgive all my brothers and sisters who have hell in their body. And the smart therapist humbled me to let me know, wow, I feel so sad. And then I remembered, then I learned I feel sad, but hurt people like to keep hurting people because they're hooked on drama. They're hooked on their low self-esteem, indirect communication, passive-aggressive, very bad guts. So between addictions, inner critic, outer critic, and then hanging out with Tom and Jerry because, they always do the same things, those who share the fantasy stages. Yeah, so whether it's a 4D or 3D mystic, spiritual, mindful, not living person, I have laundry, you do, Zen Master, and I can't believe you gave yourself this title, but I know who you're for. For the emotionally immature people who say enlightenment is not possible, it's a trap, is it now? I just want people to stop thinking that the world is about what feels right. I want just what is right. I see you're very scared and you're a cynic because you don't think that I can burst out crying all of a sudden because I get emotional, which means you have a closed tear duct, and that's very not good for your body. But let me not play the know-it-all. So enlightenment is emotional and mental mastery. We say no to mediocrity with the IHP, IG mindset and lifestyle. Become a paid subscriber. You get daily inner growth mindset practices. There's exercise types. There's also readings and spotlights. And in fact, I'm going to share some readings in a little bit. But I want to close out this POV, a little bit of this and that. So enlightenment, mysticism, spirituality, the human way is not for mediocre people because mediocre people are not in the therapist room getting their childhood healed and or their nervous system worked on. So as long as you cannot physically contain sensations, images, what are also behaviors, affects, and meanings, thank you, Peter Levine, you are not taking a hold of your trauma charges. And when it comes up because of yoga, it's not because of a demon, and meditation and mindfulness are also not bringing up demons. It's that your brain has an embodied brain and it's trying to heal itself from trauma charges. And this is because it's trying to stamp it. And there's your EMDR, child parts work somatics, helps people who love themselves first because they say, you know what, I do have shit to work on. And then they become emotionally aware, accountable, and regulate. And thanks to that, we're going to be all together. So the 5D collective are people who are not going to be around mediocrity, but we also won't point it out. So emotionally immature people are not going to be kicked out to the curb because Pacha doesn't kick Cusco out to the curb. Cusco keeps lying to Pacha. That's called shame. Person who justifies a grown-up who treats people like shit, children, and grown-ups equal. So you have integrity when you have the ventral vagal state and you understand that you've never walked one day in the shoes of any of your 8 billion brothers and sisters and that they're all angels. And if they've fallen, you have the responsibility, as the Dalai Lama points out, and Sadhguru and any wise one, to pick them up if you can. And I will say, I'm 4'9" and I'm a woman, and I would be afraid if it's a man, but I might see if I have anybody around me. And then I will maybe approach, and I will actually, first of all, trust my gut. So as long as my gut says there's no physical danger, that's my number one cue that I can approach. And then I'll think I'm a woman. That's the logic part, that the left brain, I don't really need it. Those are the biases. And I'm like, oh, I know that it can go either way. And I'm going to choose based on how physically safe I think I can be. And so that's the sad part about when I have to deal with men as a woman, I was 4'9", is that I most likely am going to just make sure if I feel comfortable, then I'll approach, knowing that I'm still taking risk. Because just because I've seen you and I feel comfortable isn't 100% certainty. But I would not want to leave and be ashamed of myself for not having helped somebody get up off the floor. And it doesn't matter if they're of the same team or if they crap on my lovely city that I love so much. So actually, here's where I'll share a funny story. As I get reprimanded sometimes by those who know me, because I do have healthy self-worth and I don't hang out with mediocrity at all. And therefore, when I am around anyone who doesn't know healthy self-worth, I will spot it. I found out from a lovely neuroscientist that women, they can smell genetic compatibility. And as a person who is completely aware of what healthy self-worth, enlightenment, mystic, spiritual people are, and that means securely attached, non-traumatized, restorative, embodied, self-aware, accountable, regulating, capable. All people are capable to walk a walk like Jesus did and Buddha, and like Sadhguru does, because there's your nervous system. So the people who don't want to learn how to navigate it, they won't be back because they will be okay with being in their sympathetic with hypervigilance and their dorsal vagal. That also involves, let's see, I'll use only one of the words, exhausted, heaviness. Okay, on the other hand, what we have with our parasympathetic is social engagement, secure, curiosity, healthy, present, calm, aliveness, connected and grounded. That's what I have. So even when it looks like I have anxiety, because I've had the panic attacks, you all know that, but see, that's where the freeze response and all of our trauma charges, because we all have the baseline of those child parts. Okay, so mine all came out, and Maria's good because I'm not mediocre with my brain. I have a bilateral, vertical, overall integrated, and I am on purpose challenging every person to go and get themselves into bilateral, vertical, because that's the only way you get ego to spot anything, is when you say, so do you know how to use two sides of your brain? And that's it, because you know what I also know is, oh, the enlightenment trap right there. Wow, you're cynical. You really don't know. Where are you? Thank you, Anne Leconf. And Laura Leconf, fix your destructive mindset in 15 minutes. She describes exactly who the cynicals are. They have survival mode on. The escapists, they are still curious, but decided to let go of ambition. The perfectionists, on the other hand, try to escape uncertainty through working on things in ways that are completely low on the curiosity scale. And she then shares that the ideal mindset is experimental. And so the scientific method plus growing every step of the way, which is amazing. So we have a bunch of 5D collective scientists who match to achieve the wisdom of spirituality. So when you hear anyone telling you that it's Luciferian era, or there's still demons or evil or energy vampires or dark auras or some shit like that, they're dehumanizing our brothers and sisters, and they're actually egoic, like those pseudo-intellectuals who will go around talking about conversations with an angle. And the angle is completely visible if you're an intelligent mind, because you're like, okay, we are not meant to be monogamists. We are going to gain security from being polyamory. You have preferences, I see. Very clear. One thinks that we need to push people to be not monogamous. The other wants to push people to be polyamory, and not really push, but you're giving me your agenda, which is your hypothesis, which is your theory, which is very interesting. But I'm going to say neither of those equal love, because if I don't have a human being who is owning all their child parts, and therefore is a functional adult bare minimum, as Terry Real, all the people who go to him, or Patrick Tian, all the people who go to him, these are good therapists, you can go find them. They make people out to be that which is a human being who knows how to now work their ventral vagal state. I'm already there. So the inner growth mindset is for people who are already ready to be open-hearted with the inner growth. Not inner critic, not outer critic, not fucking drinking, drugging, not pretending to know who you are, okay, because the facades, there's bountiful. Here's Janina Fisher. When the world is unsafe, remembering one's body and emotions means that we experience all subsequent words as unsafe. And our nervous systems, our little nervous systems, adapt to a dangerous world. I don't have any of this shit. And those who do and are healing it, they will continue to heal it, and they won't want to be near ventral energy. And that's okay, because I'm okay with somebody saying, you're not real. I know that. Dr. Daniel Fox. Let me read to you. Imagine trusting someone less when they are kind to you. How abandonment and borderline personality disorder can sabotage your relationships. And you know who I know? I know Kylie. She's a healing narcissist and a healing borderline personality disorder lady. And when her boyfriend, who's a sociopath, proposed to her, she flipped out on him. She did the black and white thinking, which is not only a borderline. It's any human being who's emotionally immature, which is why they're mediocre. Anytime you're doing a blanket statement, you're an idiot. That's it. You don't need to stay here. Idiocy is when you are not using your prefrontal cortex. I know how to be present and not assume, because I'm attuning to your nervous system, and then I'm resonating because I'm chit-chatting, and I'm trusting because I'm expanding, because I'm not going to be watching my back like somebody who is in calculation. There is stress and struggle of the mind, and giving there's joy. Thank you, Sadhguru. Again, if you live in suspicion, always thinking everyone is out to get you, you will only do very small things in life. Trust is very important. Again, thank you, Sadhguru. But as Janina Fisher just pointed out, and as Dr. Amy points out, if your body's unsafe, my default mode network is downregulated. That's why I have an integrated brain. Science explained to me what I am, and I share it with you, but the story is enlightenment the human way, awesome sauce. Mysticism, awesome sauce. Spirituality, I know exactly who Jesus and God are, which is why it is not surprising that he taught me, God, how not to play know-it-all when I was about 20. And in a very, very funny way, might I add. Some people see relationships as battles and not partnerships. And they misinterpret neutral situations as hostile and negative, because they're always out for what's going to go wrong and who's going to fuck them in the ass. So when I see any of mediocrity, I know exactly who they are. And when I see them acting like they're big a shot, what was it, Sadhguru? If you think you're big, you become small. If you know you're nothing, you become immense. That is the beauty of being human, which is why ego, I spot it like a hawk. I'm an empowered feminine, not a distorted one. And who humbles this person? It's called, thank you, Peter Levine, Bezel Van der Kolk, Stephen Porges, all the human beings who made me cry for at least like 2 years after every classroom of finding out exactly what it means for a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old to be in a house that is shit. And that's how I'm going to say it. I know that no parent is perfect. Right now, I'm trying to make a point. Because if you're really going to project your anger at humanity, then you might go and get your brokenness fixed first and stop projecting it on the entire species, because it's offensive to me. I'm not a broken human being, and I use my prefrontal. So mediocrity, again, it's the lame-ass teenager. I've heard them before. Evil wins, evil where? Where? There's no evil. And I learned in my courses as I got to my master's degree, when I did my paper on evil and power. Power corrupts. And I'm like, wait a minute. As I'm doing the research, I'm looking into these figures. I had 3 case studies. I wasn't appreciated by the professor because I used qualitative instead of quantitative. And I'm thinking, but we have both options. And they explained why quantitative is better, which is why I know when you got people using their mouth as if they know everything, but they're not in a research lab, like Stephen Porges, sure, keep using your mouth. What'd you tell me? Oh, I heard you. No, I'm not stupid, but you can call me stupid. I'll let you, so that I can get out of that ridiculous conversation at this point, because the only idiot is an ego who begins to get agitated with information. Because again, knowledge is built. It's not powerful. Is that we continue to evolve as a species. Anybody who cuts out knowledge and says, I know everything based on their yesterday's news, you don't know everything. You're a moron. That's it. You don't know what tomorrow's going to be like, and not doing anything about the environment, about the water, and taking a side is bullshit. Why are you taking a side? You're not proactive. Don't you know how to handle yourself like a grown-up, which is what you like or don't like don't matter? Aren't you caring? I thought you had integrity and values and virtue. Where is it? Because I see that you're making up an excuse for why not to recycle, for why not to try and... I remember as a teenager growing up, I was already recycling. I had friends who gave no shits. I'd go pick up their trash as they're throwing it on the floor, and they would stop me, and I'd say, why? You don't want to do it? I want to do it. I'm trying to make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. Every small difference makes a difference. I'm not going to stop picking up your trash because I'm trying to tell you. I've harassed you about it. You still won't listen to me. I'm going to then be proactive. It doesn't matter to me that I'm picking up, because I'm not doing it for the person who's disregarding, throwing it on the floor. I'm doing it for the planet and for the children. When you hear men or women saying they want children and then they care not about what they're doing to the planet, sure you do, hypocrite. You're a hypocrite because you're not thinking of your children's children. You're just thinking of the one. I think that's hypocrisy. You don't love anyone. You love without creating safety for them for tomorrow. How do you love? That's not love. That's actually a lie. If you love someone, you keep them safe. You don't make it dangerous for them to be in a planet that is already dangerous. And so this is the part. God doesn't want any of his children to be afraid. And the ones who make these stories of devils, evils, Knievils still are completely misplaced at this point in our human history. Thank goodness science is here, because that's the one thing. I said, hey God, so guess what? All of my brothers and sisters, they can have heaven the body now. Hey, guess what, Jesus? They're all saved. Hey, Buddha, I'm still going to make fun of you because seriously, they're not even using your suffering bit to get enlightened. You got a Zen master who tells you that there's no enlightenment because he's got laundry. Bessel van der Kolk, the only way we can change the way we feel is by becoming aware of our inner experience and learning to befriend what is going on inside ourselves. But people say neuroscience, ha ha ha, I find it hard to believe. Neuroscience, I saw demonic possession. Yes, again, I can explain it to you. I'm not the scientist, I'm the pseudoscientist. I'm the woo lady, but I'm a mystic who's spiritual, who knows God. And yeah, there's none of my brothers and sisters who are devils or demons. They're all children. And stop dehumanizing my brothers and sisters because you don't like Michael Stone and his forensic criminologist skill, which gives you an answer, which isn't you need to pat someone on the back. It's there's not imagination for evil. There's education. So people who dehumanize with philosophy and religious textbooks, whether they're mystic, spiritual, or not mindful, are people who don't know how to be with integrity, virtue, humility, and an intelligent mind. They're mediocre at best, and really they're hypocrites on a lot of different counts because their anger is ill-placed due to the fact that they could be healing it. Hurt people don't hurt all of us. They simply continue their self-fulfilling prophecies because the adaptive child part will continue to play out their 0 to 8-year-old who's hurt feelings. Then they continue to just, hang out with each other. In the meantime, their golden nuggets, sure, throw it into the pile. We are making out of it. The intelligent ones create. The ones who are throwing at each other just, they think they're doing something. Anybody remember the Schopenhauer quote? You want to appeal to the large audience, appeal to the masses. Does anybody know what the masses are when you meet intelligent, not mediocre brains? So I've never looked to mediocrity. It's why God taught me how not to play know-it-all. It's very easy for me to spot where there's a missing piece because I will hear it in your voice when you have self-righteous ego in the room. Grandiosity, contempt is not something dangerous. It's actually a poor 3-year-old. I'm not afraid of a 3-year-old who's got a 16-year-old who's an asshole because I ain't a 16-year-old, and even as a 16-year-old, I was like, you're out, you're out, you're out, you're out, you're out, you're out, you're in, you're in, you're in. Oh, wait, let me not point. My mother taught me it's bad manners. I thought you were very snobby, Maria. This is my BFFF of all times. I was like, no, I'm not. I'm just a person who's selective. Yeah, now I know. And I'm 45. I'm still selective. I'm decent enough to be saluted. I don't hang out with people who don't know their self-worth, who don't know healthy boundaries, and who don't know how to be smart. And that's because I'm not interested in idiocy. And also I'm interested in having a good time. And do you know what Pinocchio does on the island? Yes. So whenever I see life being wasted away, I'm not like, oh my God, let me make fun of them. No, I'm actively trying very hard to look away. No, I don't. I don't have to try because I don't fight any kind of thoughts because God is God and you get your free will. And that's what it's called to be humble. Also, all the therapists have mentioned you lack self-awareness, accountability, and regulation skills when you're a person, not you, but a person who doesn't have emotional maturity. So I don't have to teach anybody a lesson because I won't be teaching any fake person. They have a mask on. They're not even hearing me. They're talking over me like my facade friend. So they, again, misinterpret neutral situations as hostile and negative. They, in fact, make up bullshit stories about people like me. Like I put a spell on someone, or that I'm a liar and that I suffer behind doors. I mean, really, it's amazing what people will do when they meet actual positive human beings because it's actual positive since I am a person who's an entrepreneur. So I, like Albert Einstein said, stay away from negative people. Not only do they have a problem for every solution, they're mediocre in their brains, and I completely do not want any more of that. I make fun of the pseudo-intellectuals on purpose, and then I surround my ears with smart human beings. And they're also open-hearted, and they're also open-minded. So they know that it's not our species was meant to be monogamous or polyamorous, not all polyamorous, polygamous, but that our nervous system has a 0-1-year-old, and that 0-1-year-old wants to securely attach to at least one figure because as evolutionary psychologists and all the smart ones know, we will be eaten by the bear. So my implicit memory already knows. In my case, I'm lucky because I'm a self-agent. I have a twin, and so I know that I'll never be eaten by the bear by myself. I'll always have someone with me. So you want at least one securely attached figure, which is why those who have shame at the core, they will justify grown-up shitty behavior because they don't understand that they didn't do anything wrong. They're not defective. That's shame on the grown-up and any of those who are still treating their children as if they are not allowed to be angry in a supermarket or cry really loud in a supermarket or get disgusted, surprised, all the feelings. So when I see a grown-up actually being an asshole to any child, I just leave it alone because I can't do anything. When I see grown-ups who are worried about what they're going to leave behind, that's good. Dr. Daniel Siegel says nobody's perfect, so it's okay. That parents who care, they go and get taught with Dr. Daniel Siegel and all the smart therapists. So the people who care, like I care, I now know if someone's compartmentalizing that I'm going to look around in a way and try to leave them alone. And when someone says, it's very bad to not look in the eyes, I say, actually depends on the culture, number one. And two, I learned something about trauma charges and a lot of attachment wounds. And so I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable because I'm knowledgeable. So it's not about lack of confidence. I remember learning that too as I was a teenager. Now I have more knowledge that informs me that if someone's looking away from me, that they're insecure, and I don't want to make them more uncomfortable. So explanations. Anyone who's wondering why we can explain things, just saying, some of us learn how humans are made. So enlightenment, it exists. It's not a trap unless you don't own your body and you're a cynic who has not two sides of the brain working, and then you're envious and spiteful and you don't actually go heal yourself because really you're going to be a spiteful person for the rest of your life. Wow. Okay. So again, when everything is calm, a person who's used to being in hypervigilance, they will get very uncomfortable with it and they will continuously try to get things going. So it's a very sad day when you understand that the people, again, who make it sound like they have complete certainty and complete authority and complete everything, whether it's on God or science, they don't, or on intellects, any of conversations. And mediocrity is completely involving anyone who still in the year 2025 hasn't understood what it looks like to be mindfully with flaws and integrity, your true self. So mindfulness practices support those of you who have mindset skills. And that's because you do want to grow up. And as the inner growth mindset helps you to consistently grow with ego and self, you have the capacity to be true spirituality, live a life of meaning and connection beyond the solo self. Learned that one from Dr. Daniel Siegel. You get to also enjoy your clairs if you have mysticism, because you're channeling like everybody else, but you're using a prefrontal versus the amygdala. Also, when it comes to enlightenment, you will notice when you're in the soul age group, it's like you notice it. And I'm going to bring in is you enter that restorative embodiment. And with self-awareness, accountability, and regulation skills, you own the sense of self, so you're whole. You're always good with all your child parts, and you continue expanding. So expansion is something very amazing because the depth of your emotional plane grows, the depth of your mental plane, and you're mastering your physical. And your relationship also with God, Source, Akash, Anima Mundi grows. And so it's a consistent, enriching experience. And mediocrity will not ever know it, not because they can't. They choose not to go and, again, get that embodied brain healed so that they can, one, own the sense of self. Once you own the sense of self and you have earned secure attachment, now you're able to consistently move with a self-led body. And then the next is, I forgive. Blessed are those who believe without seeing. Why? Because you can differentiate with your I'm a me, I'm present in my prefrontal. Automatically, I'm attuning to my entire environment because we're embodied brains. Now that I know what's going on in a room, because I'm a guitar string, they're a guitar string, like Dr. Daniel Siegel taught me, and like I know the relational field, all of it. So I will recalibrate my insula grows, not my amygdala, because I'm using my prefrontal cortex and my mammalian heritage. So my ventral vagal state. And I'm good because you can't offend a person who has actual confidence. Actual confidence is actual acceptance. I don't endorse any of me getting in your face, because why would I? You're already tuning me out. And in fact, that would just be a teenager. I don't know. I didn't even do that as a teenager. I had one very huge argument, quote unquote, with my teenage boyfriend. And I'm like, yeah, I ain't never going to do this one again, because really... Effective realism. That's when someone thinks that their feelings, which is why everybody is made of feelings, are irrefutable facts. Actually, I've read to you that quote before. Let's see if I can find the name of the lady right here. So this is Kristen Lindquist. Powerful emotions feel like irrefutable facts. Effective realism is, again, when somebody thinks that based on how they feel about something and think about something, that they're right. And there's your adaptive child again. So when you continue to hear people who don't have faith in humanity, that's because their faith was broken, not the other way around. And when you do have faith and you do know Jesus, God, Holy Spirit again, and mysticism and spirituality, and that we're all source, you know that nobody is on the wrong end of the stick, meaning that they have the free will choice for those of us who know about free will from spirit, God, again, source, Akash Anima Mundi, to choose to become kind. We also know scientifically if they have trauma and they're not healing it, that they're going to instead play out their 0-8-year-old. And their 0-8-year-old is a low emotionally intelligent human being who hangs out with other low emotionally intelligent human beings, and then they create groups and they pat each other on the back. And they also are the most dangerous because they will make people feel comfortable with mediocrity by telling them that devils and demons are why relationships come their way, or because you're an empath, you're going to attract narcissists, or because you're a part of the 144,000 chosen ones, that you are chosen and others are not, or that you need their subliminal messages to become somebody who is in a higher frequency, or that you lose people when you get into becoming a person who has clairs. You don't lose anyone. You don't lose people. What kind of an arrogant human being do you think? So when I hear losing, I'm like, what? Who? Because you're raising your frequency. So again, it's a competitive story, but it's not because they're trying to be they're ignorant. Now that the bountiful though of information is out there, this is the part of where 3D, 4D continues to not tune in to Patrick McNamara, decentralizing the self, how it is how our species evolved, how the embodied brain works, and getting to Pat Ogden, for example. So getting all of your body into that which is a ventral vagal state. Okay, so people who become paid subscribers, it helps the channel grow, but also you get, again, these inner growth mindset exercises and spotlights and readings. Meantime, enlightenment is emotional and mental mastery and physical mastery. So I'm an Akashic record reader, I astral travel, all beautiful experiences, which is why we'll have workshops and retreats in the future. The masterclass is for those who will want to add to their knowledge on, okay, here's my nervous system, how I'm working through things, and then I have, I forget how many modules, but I have the outline. We might have a light version of the masterclass on our paid subscriber content, which again, below is the link on Spotify and Spotify for podcast, or for creators, you'll see video, but elsewhere you hear me. So I'm making the content so that you can hear me and follow me with hearing. And that's 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and 15 minutes due to people having different attention spans and different time. And also you don't need too much. All you need is, what is it called? It's like brainstorming. So once you're in the practice of liking self-awareness, accountability, and regulation, you get to think things through with the feelings in the forefront. And because there's always something that's going to, oh, there it is, you always have the opportunity to expand. That's what makes enlightening so much fun. So a trap for people who don't know how to live from the heart, because they don't know how to live from a body that is in connection. And so that means they have not yet unlearned their unhealthy self-soothing and their unhealthy shame, and therefore they haven't noticed that all of their defective shame and justifying any kind of bullshit statement. So life isn't hard. Life is made of unknowns, uncertainties, unwanteds. What's hard is for people when they don't know how to feel and think from their prefrontal cortex. So feeling is hard for a person who has a small window of tolerance to sadness, anger, and disgust, and surprise, and happiness, and fear. Did I say them? So there's about 6, okay? Once you have comfortable with the depths of emotional, that's why they last 90 seconds. People who think that that is not possible, again, they haven't put it into practice. They don't have to. I don't want to do self-help. I want life now. They just made one opportunity to nothing more than they're whining on a wheelhouse again. That's why the Zen master says laundry. So every time he cries, he just thinks it's shit. He's using his temporal junction because he's not pursuing inner growth. He's not using the land of truth, neutrality, and duality. But that means I have no position. No, it means you're a smart human being who's going to get into your prefrontal cortex, get out of your 1-year-old, 3-year-old, and allow yourself to notice, let me get into my ventral vagal state. And so when someone wants to think, is emotion, no, that's just not an angry, experienced ventral vagal state. Angry Buddhist is what the somatic therapists call that. I'm an angry Christian Catholic, yes, but I'm a mystic, spiritual. I go beyond that, all of it, all words. Words don't mean anything except for me trying to convey a message that can make sense. And they mean something more to those who don't understand that their feelings are what matter the first. Your sensations, first of all. Your 14-month-old rules you again and again and again until you are the one who's aware. Oh, look, my likes and dislikes. I can work with that. So feeling, I like, I don't like. You already know what you like and don't like. It's immediate. It comes first. You'll notice the tinge. People who are mediocre, they like to just talk a big talk. They don't notice that we're all the same, because we all lead with heart. So we all lead with feelings. And if you have yucky feelings, you can work with that. And it's not about toxic positivity. It's about processing. So forgiveness, as Dr. Daniel Siegel pointed out, is not about you actually saying it's okay. No, you're processing a charge. You're allowing yourself to know that now I'm in the present. It's not coming back. I won't ever have it again. You won't ever make up for something that took place. Ever. Accepting that is number one. Number two is processing every time that emotion comes up. Like Patrick Tan points out, when people are healing from trauma, they're not going to want to forgive immediately anyone. They don't have to forgive. They're going to take the time it takes for them to process. I was gifted a shitty ass environment that made me actually live out shame and guilt and follow idiots around and actually justify grown-up bad behavior while they were not grown-ups. They were ignoring being emotionally mature, and they were ignoring their bad habits and manners. Now, when I see memes of fathers who let their kids get electrocuted, that's not funny. When I see the fathers who are shaving their beards and their kids are screaming bloody murder, I'm like, you realize that you just traumatized your kid. You're too serious. I'm not too serious when you find out that a fragmented state of self can happen because of a screen. No, I'm actually concerned in a healthy way, and that's why Dr. Daniel Siegel says, hey, parents, it's okay. We all know you're doing the best you can. A third attunement, repairing ruptures. But to disregard completely the information and say, they're making our kids go soft. No, they're not. They're not making any kid go soft. Actually, all those kids are going to be a lot stronger than the ones who don't have a good child-centered environment, because they're going to be able to stand up like I have all the time and look at somebody in the face with a higher self and be like, it's too bad I'm 4'9". No, it's not actually. I'm kidding, because if I hadn't been 4'9", I'm pretty sure I would be a mediocre person myself. As that's how easy it is for any one of us who has a inner child that will be leading with a self to say, I'll stand up for myself immediately. Because see, anger is about me standing up for myself. There's nothing wrong with anger. I don't have to, though. I don't correct grown-ups, and I don't correct anybody, because God is the one who takes care of that. And I also don't correct because you have free will. And so there's that. Enlightenment, again, emotional mental mastery. We say no to mediocrity with IHP, IG mindset, and lifestyle choices. So when you subscribe, you'll get daily, again, practices and readings, and also spotlighting good therapists and good content, and then making fun of the pseudo-intellectuals, that's for sure. But what's sad to me is when I see the ones who want to use the word leader, and then they're continuing to spread rumors about our brothers and sisters, because this is the part of devils, demons, and scientists who don't believe in their colleagues' research, and it's about being grounded in reality. Any of our cherishable beliefs can be falsifiable. Scientists and intellectuals who are smart work together. The ones who are egoic don't. Spiritual bypassers are all the ones who are also separating themselves from the crowd. If they're still continuing with divisive talk, it's, again, adaptive children like very rigid structures, because they're uncomfortable with unknown, because they're uncomfortable with the word, I don't know everything. We know some things. They're also uncomfortable with that which is different from what their child version is. This is why stereotypes, stigmas, they're all ignorant people. Anyone who wants to believe there's a superhero and supervillain, you're an ignorant human being who's wanting a story. Go watch a movie. Stop putting your brothers and sisters, human beings, into in and out groups that are dehumanizing, because we're all people with an embodied brain. So the embodied brain is what I'm trying to highlight, because that's what you are. That's what I am. I'm a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old who has no shame, never have, never will. And I'm saying I stand up for Maria's inner child. You better bet. I'm 4'9" though, and I won't stand up for anybody's inner child, because I can't. And when I have done that, as Dr. Daniel Fox presents, imagine someone trusting a kind person less. Okay? So, when you are a master of yourself and you enjoy being who you are and you're building genuine relationships, doesn't matter who you meet, you will always have that which is an expanding experience. Because whatever competence, capabilities, and genius we may have, all of it is meaningful only where there is balance. Thank you, Sadhguru. As an attachment trauma educated person, I was humbled immediately, year after year and day after day of my courses, in a way that made my heart very sad for all my brothers and sisters who don't go get healed. To the point of where I'm like, I need to not walk around. I'm a attachment flaring up of all these wounds for people immediately. I had no doubt about it from the moment I'm learning about how people who are insecure work. And it was sad because of understanding and then witnessing. Since 2005, I've been with Claire's and expanded this way that we are chit-chatting about here. And I see the ones who are going to, like Patrick Jan points out, justify their mediocre. He doesn't use that word. I'm going to use it on purpose. They're mediocre, very low self-esteem relationships. So when I see Diego's family out there, they're not talking in a way that I'm saying they represent anything except for people who need to go to Patrick Jan so that they can fix that humanity, broken faith that's going on in their body. That they can stop thinking they're going to raise their frequency. You ain't raising anything, because if you're losing people, you haven't raised your frequency. You've just decided that you have a group and you don't know how to use your nervous system still. And you can totally tell when a person is in their ego in the way of using their gut, because their heart's closed off and they're very much in an idea that they know everything, in a way of being self-righteous. While I do present, I know some shit. And the difference is in my frequency. And all the people are insecure. They will just say, that's a hypocrite, because she's talking like she knows everything too. And this is the part of what my ears already know, not only a sound, but also the adaptive child part ways, because they're always doing the same shit. They don't like to hear that which is neutrality and duality, because I can explain it to you endlessly, and I will not end, because I'm also getting the information from actual data. It's not facts, it's data. So again, when I see people picking a side, monogamy not meant to be, polyamory, excuse me, please put them both to the side. You want to love? One, The Art of Loving, great book, Eric Fromm, thank you so much. It's a verb. It doesn't change. It's consistent. That's because I have a securely attached Maria. I don't need you. I'm not attaching to you. My love is free. I don't expect you to do anything with it. In fact, if you throw in shit in my face, you ain't changing my love. There's no test. I ain't testing you. I'm an empowered feminine. God doesn't test his children in the ludicrous ways that the ancient people still talk about. They're all full of shame. Do you know why shame exists from an evolutionary perspective? I got taught it in one of my courses, because you get kicked out of the herd, like with the dogs, but we're not dogs. We evolved. So now we're not living in the forest, not us at least. You know what those who still live as hunter-gatherers do to the teenage boys who act all cocky? They humble them. You know how? By making fun of their small catch. So when people know what humility means, and when we understand that our ancestors had some ways of maintaining expansion and some ways that were not. Okay, so today, as we have evolved, we have science that explains exactly what shame is as a posture, as a feeling, why people will say, no, I don't have it, why people will not want. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because those same people, they think they're brilliant while in their destructive mode. While they reject valid information, they think they're brilliant. In the meantime, if they were objective of anything, they'd notice that their gut is upset and really angry. And really, because that's exactly how people have shared with me when I say, yeah, I can activate wounds. And so someone might not like me in the moment as I'm interacting with them. And they're like, yeah, actually, that makes a lot of sense now that I think about it. And one of the people that I've worked with before, and I'm like, yes, that's good. It's good you noticed it. See, that's a great step. Now let's continue chit-chatting. And that's when they're like, yeah, no, I'm doing good. I'm totally fine with where I'm at. And so again, a person justifying maladaptive patterns of behavior, which is not only about the inner critic, outer critic, and the procrastination and the drinking or the drugging or the fucking it's not only that, okay? It's their body is consistently working from I'm not safe, the distress. This is the part that they completely disregard, which is why, like this avoidant who goes on screen and says, I'm an avoidant, and since you're all talking about us, I'm going to make you aware of us. I didn't go to therapy anymore because they said I'm doing a good job, and they just tell me to keep doing mindfulness and journaling, and why should I? We're all fucked up. Lame ass excuse, teenager. You're grown up, I think, but that's a lame ass excuse you just gave me. It's as if I said, oh, my back. I'm not going to do exercise. I'll let myself crumble down. Difference is that's physical, so it's more obvious. While the emotional part you're so used to, so a person who suffers is so used to it that they think that's the only way to feel in life, which is why they get addicted. It's a addiction to drama is not funny. That's why this dude who's helping people understand that there's addiction not only to stress but also to drama, he says it's disrespectful to call drama kings and drama queens. What he doesn't realize is that there's a bounty full of human beings. I know all about them because I see them every day. They're hooked on it. Like this avoidant, it's not even hooked on it. They're justifying with their mouth their maladaptive behaviors. And they're saying, I'm doing a great job at ignoring to heal myself. And you can't go to them and say anything, because only martyrs superiors who also need therapists do that. I'm a healer. How dare you trauma dump? That's called weaponizing psychoeducation. You ain't heal what? Who are you healing? So when someone wants to call human beings crappy, evil, a low frequency, anyone who's low frequency is an emotionally immature person who doesn't know how to do their ventral vagal state workout. It is mediocre for a person such as myself, but I'm a functional child adult. There's no unfinished business here. You see a person who says, I love the way I love. You don't have to like me. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure. Bye-bye. See you later, alligator. Peace out. That's it. I have 2 human beings who basically in my lifetime told me, no friends. I'm like, okay, I didn't lose shit. You know why? Because we're all flawed and perfect. And the minute you think you're not, I'm going to say, wow, that's some ego, because you just did the casting of a stone, judger, and everything. And you think that that is actually your right. Well, adaptive child part, let me not be in the way. Cusco, go have fun with more Cuscos. Because that's what any person who is a teenage version of themselves. So I like to bring me into the mix. I have humility and integrity with confidence, which means something. I accept myself just the way I am, and I'll accept you just the way you are. And what we need to physically survive is air, water, and food. What we also will need is our alloparenting. We have our families, our first group. So we will all begin with either securely attached or not. If you get securely attached, then you're going to know how amazing it is to live life. And as John Amaichi points out, only a fool believes that success achieved alone is real. Okay, so I have a good start. I continue to have my next 5 alloparenting as an adolescent. Again, I got attachment trauma education, so I'm using the information. But remember, I'm woo-woo pseudoscience and I fuck up and forget the data. So don't you be writing no notes down, but you can ask me what my courses are. I'm glad to share and all that other stuff. So once you've chosen your second alloparenting group, that's when you continue what you did in your first 8 years of life. I know all about Maria. I'm a self-agent and I only care about my physical safety. And I'm going to walk a walk and talk a talk because I said yes to Jesus. So as I told the teenage boyfriend by the 3rd time he cheated, I said, look, this is getting ridiculous. And I went to the BFFF and I said, so why didn't you tell me? You know, I forgive. I was afraid. She said the same thing twice. So I just figured, okay, God, all these people are so afraid. I just know a bunch of cowards. I'm going to keep moving like you told me. And I got to learn about not playing the know-it-all. And I get to keep moving forward. And with my oversoul, nothing changed. In fact, nothing, except for meeting the 4D and their ridiculous stories and their ridiculous, disrespectful stories to all of that, which is the expansion of spiritual growth for those of you who are growing, okay? So when you hear them talking about twin flames or, you know, you losing people, all of it, just put it all in a box and just allow yourself to understand the soul is one frequency. I'll just try to break it down. It's an ease in the restorative embodiment self. So you're going to have to get there first so that you can experience it. I only know ease inside of Maria. I don't know disruption of my higher self and none of that. So it's a feeling that I'm so accustomed to. As I got to feel more and more of the light body, rainbow body, it just grew more and more blissful. I'm just like, wow. Okay, so nothing has in any way, shape, or form disrupted me from that which they will say is grace. And that's why that restorative embodiment, it's something you'll be familiar with, your ventral energy. It's part of your mammalian heritage. Okay, and so as I'm moving into more of my clairs, I'm not misplaced because Jesus, God, Holy Spirit very specifically gave the guidance. My brothers and sisters have one of 2 choices. It's either they choose love and kindness or they don't. And when they don't, I know of cowards already. Okay, no demon, no Lucifer. signs proving it continuously. So I'm like, God, this is great. I get to respect people who are not in their wholeness because of their distorted fake self, because they had a crappy childhood. So yes, Jesus, I am forgiving people who don't know how to forgive, and I am also going to turn the other cheek. And like Dr. Daniel Siegel says, I'm going to process a charge. It's all going to be okay because I'm a differentiated self, and I create muis all the time, and I don't calibrate to their nervous system. When I'm attuning to you, I will attune to you, then I will resonate and trust, but I will be in Maria's ventral energy, and that's it. So I will not be in a lower frequency, and I will not obligate anybody around me to be in my ventral energy. Meantime, I know how I'm looking at them because of the smart scientist explained it. So I know what a 5D mystic in the Enlightenment Soul Age group who's a functional child adult will do to any person out there who has any of that shit that they have not yet taken ownership of. And Cusco, what does Cusco do with Pacha? So I can tell you all about a Cusco Pacha story, which I won't. But you better bet that, like Pacha, I consistently, throughout these different stories, have known my oversoul helps me to expand. Every single relationship helps me to consistently make the same promise that I promised when I was a teenager. And as I told the BFFF about, why didn't you just tell me, I forgive? And I actually know myself, and then I think of these two people who don't want to talk to me. I didn't lose shit. Because the minute, again, you think you're perfect in any way, shape, or form in a way of telling me how to live my life, sure, whatever. I mean, you can go hang out with your other teenage friends and all be behahas, sheep together. Because, again, this is a very small frequency when people are needing to get each other's approval versus being an independent human being who says, I'm a differentiated self, so are you. And it's not about the words, it's about the capacity to be your own self-agent. Differentiated means that I will not be angry or upset or sad or afraid of you having any kind of different way to bring to me concepts. And so I'm expanding it again. We do spiritual self-help, personal development. So my way of conceptualizing and sharing stories is always centered around how do you contemplate if you're a self-agent who's differentiated, if you're in a body that's a ventral vagal state, again, in the ways that I'm talking, you're consistently going to move into more and more of being self-empowered, enlightening all the time. That's why it's not a trap. But first you need to have the embodied brain, which is where yoga, ventral vagal portfolio of toning exercises, mindfulness meditation, it helps integration. But it's not going to integrate if you need a therapist because you got some stuff going on. So people who disregard going to get their child stuff healed and anything else healed. So meeting biologically rude people is something that I'm used to, is what I'm trying to get to. They're not Lucifers, they're not devils, they're not demons, they're not anything except for people who are shame, blame, fault, revenge. And really, revenge means nothing to me because it's a coward's game. And once they're using the dark sides of neuroplasticity, their grandiosity, contempt, and mannerisms just stay the same. And you're going to see a pathology on a wheelhouse, which I know by the back of my hand. When a person doesn't get their defective self out of defective, they become the pretend personality that they think they are, which is then going to grow up to become a man who thinks they know what a father is and plays Russian roulette on a screen, and he doesn't know what being a father is because he doesn't care obviously about future generations, nor does a mother woman who says it's the mother, the bosom. No, it's not the mother or the bosom, it's the nervous system. You were ignorant on that. Monogamy, polyamory, none of that. Again, it's not our society is either or. It's do we have securely attached, self-led people who are doing their best to consistently move into that which is a restorative embodiment, self-aware, accountable, regulating life. If that is the case, great, stay around because you have chosen to not be a mediocre human, and therefore you're going to inspire human potential. And when ego gets challenged, if it's a real ego, then they will know the truth because they will not deny themselves the possibility to become the best version of themselves. Ego don't fucking die, it's always here. Self don't fucking die, it's always here. Humility means that I know I'm imperfect like everybody else. The minute you try to shame me with your little fucking tone, I'm a grown-up now. My mother taught me manners, I'm gonna curse because you know how many people I notice are not brilliant and how many times I've had to deal with bullshit, which is not even, I don't care about how they're treating me. I'm thinking about the waste of my time where I give you advice, I talk to you, and then you turn it around, and because you make bad choices, men and women with partners, you're going to make it look like like this is the most absurd since I was a kid. I'm like, why are these people only focused on one human being? Like, do they not have shit going on in their life? That's the part. We all want at least one human being to securely attach to, because the bear will eat you alive. So love is not about one person. When you read The Art of Loving, love is because you have the self. It's consistently on when you're in your ventral vagal state. Enlightenment is fun, but it's because I'm a 0-1-year-old of myself without the need of anyone else. And I can thank my twin, because I know what my implicit memory is. I will never be alone. I don't know aloneness. So I got lucky. That way everybody can be happy. And my genes, my alleles. So maybe I can feel with a lot more depth. Because this is the one thing when someone will mention that you get lucky. And I love how Gary Vee allows himself again to explain it means you are suffering life. And you just told somebody that I think that I know what walk you did. Like my facade friend, who I told him something and I said, I'm telling you this because you judge books by their cover all the time. Any human being who wants to tell me they know something about another person's life, I leave it alone, because you don't. And you know what? We all have a heart. And so everyone has a child part that will have felt abandoned or hurt or sad. So you're taking it upon yourself to actually talk about another human being's inner child. And I'm going to leave it alone because God chimes in. But the minute you try to do something to any child in front of me that is a grown-up, as children, I have to stay back. I'm not their parent. And I don't want children. I will not. I would. No. There's too many of these asshole grown-ups around still to even bother. They're destroying. Yes, they're destroying. No, they're ignoring. They're ignoring that we need to all come together. So when you find people who ignore the bigger picture, just leave it alone, and let's all of us, like I picked up after my friends who would throw shit on the floor, we take proactive. Smart people are proactive. They don't waste time dismantling each other. They come together with smart people and they proactively do everything they can because we care. And the other part is we're not anxious because you know how to use your ventral vagal state and your prefrontal. So with that, your creator, your entrepreneur, and those are the ones who I love when I see them on YouTube. My gosh, they're amazing. The ones who are helping our environment, the ones who are thinking of how to clean our oceans, the ones who are, so with that being said, the ones who come together have healthy self-worth and are empowered. The ones who are using their time however they want. Again, it's none of our business because getting out of the trauma stuff is a personal choice. It's very painful and it requires lack of ignorance. We still have not only religious people, but spiritual bypassers who tell you about demons, energy, possession, all this other shit. And instead of learning about neuroscience and learning about how the embodied brain works, and first of all, getting a check. Am I a healthy self-worth, empowered human being yet or not? Anyone who thinks enlightenment is a trap is not possible, doesn't own their sadness, their anger, or their fear. They don't own their subcortical areas. They don't own surprise, happiness, disgust, which means their emotional body was disconnected. They'll justify a bunch of things and then they'll crap on humanity. And then they continue to make it into a little... So when people don't know how to do Dharma, walk like an Egyptian, they are always imbalanced, which is why they will also meet those to complement each other. We don't need to complement each other in that very way because by being balanced, we complement each other with is more of expansion and balance. And the part about taking things to heart, we all take things to heart, the future, and that's why this tattoo is one of the cards to protect the future and bring it. And so what makes me sad is when I know that people can be helped, but they need interventions, but not by random people, by the ones that are around them. So while in my immediate household, I know how to stand up always, and I will always stand up. Authenticity, genuineness, and then I know what my place is because all the therapists will have shared. My place is not to tell anyone about therapy in a way of that's martyrs superiors again. So those are people who also need therapy. And the ones who are continuing to disregard their childhood trauma signs, they're choosing, no, they don't choose it. Again, they're resisting it because the shame is what wins. And that's because their ears choose to hear the pseudo-intellectuals, the bullshitter spiritual bypassers, all of that. So ignorance is something that consistently is there because of spiritual bypassers, savior complex, adaptive child part people who want to hear, I know everything. They want yesterday's news, and they're only using words based on stereotypes, generalizations, superficial thinking, which is why they're not intelligent minds. An intelligent mind is not influenced by implicit, explicit memory or biases. An intelligent mind is not deluded by imagination. Thank you, Sadhguru, for the quote. An intelligent mind is an integrated brain because it's a human being who knows. We all have an embodied brain. And the flow state is not something that is, as a neuroscientist explain, impossible or supernatural. The people who are not capable, no, this is again, all the good therapists who are specialized are working with every single one of that which is a rigidity or chaotic embodied brain that needs their support. So the ones who tell you that it's not possible for trauma to be healed have not learned from the ones who are, no, it's possible. We don't know how much of it, you're going to keep on having the past live through you, but it's once you are on the journey that you will know how far you're going to get. And it's as long as it takes. That's what the choo-choo train did. So if you give up on yourself, like Dr. Daniel Fox says, if you give up on going to therapy, on doing the things that are going to help the mindset of yours for borderline personality disorder, for example, in narcissism, she is awesome. She's healing narcissism and she's in remission for borderline personality disorder. Her name is Kylie. I've spotlighted her before. And as Dr. Daniel Fox says, as long as you're on that journey, you will achieve results. So the only ones who think it's impossible for narcissists to change, my colleagues, they're all against me. Are they? Oh, I'm so sorry. And there's your pseudo intellectuals who will say, that's a pseudoscience bitch. She don't know what she's talking about. Really, don't I now? I see that you've isolated yourself from your colleagues. They're all against you. And anytime you hear any of that, it's like, really? So peers like to peer review. They have, when you are confident, you have a gut that's like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I didn't stay in academia on purpose, but I completely love that I have my academics out there to look to, the smart ones. And those are scientists and philosophers and religious and all of it. They're curious, open, accepting, loving, and they have a good time with information because they're not snooty, ignorant people who have a closed brain. We're all selective and picky. We don't do mediocrity. Again, we may look snooty, we're not, but it's okay. When we do know that we got good ears, we're going to have laughs together because that's actually what humility means. And it's a tone, and we all change up our tone. So we'll be back with more. But yes, having the ventral vagal state is fun. So become a paid subscriber if you do know that you enjoy the inner growth mindset again and approaching life as an enlightening being with mysticism, spirituality, or even if you don't, you just get to put up with the woo pseudoscience lady and my mystic spiritual stories. And again, God loves all his children, which is why he'll never give you more than what you can handle. Jesus shared how to forgive, and Holy Spirit, and all, anima mundi. So the low frequencies, those who still talk about devils and demons and testing, they are from a certain time. I was told 4D, 3D would stick to their stuff. Again, trauma charges, if a person chooses not to go get their emotionally immature, mediocre, low self-esteem, indirect communication, passive-aggressive, hurt people, don't hurt all people. Thank you, Patrick Tian, for being out there. They choose not to go to Patrick Tian, not to go to Terreal, to become a real boy, a real girl, a real they. We're going to leave it alone because they're going to keep hanging out with Diego's family. You see what I'm saying? And they're going to isolate, like those people who do not take their children to hospitals, or those people who take their children to learn about a story that was made up, Adam and Eve versus Darwin. And then they also don't notice that our bodies are headed to the kingdom of God, the heaven in the body. So they don't hear the explanation of the scientists. And they also seem to not understand what biology as a word means, and that God created a word. I mean, science doesn't go against God. Again, he didn't say stay ignorant in the caves. So the people who want to stay ignorant in the caves, they're going to stay ignorant in the caves. The ones who want to fight with each other about who's right or wrong, they're going to get to do that. We get to make fun of them. Then we get to continue to have fun as our world keeps moving forward. Please don't hit us. Don't hit us, asteroid. Please, please. So dark matter, dark energy, it's still ongoing. So the ones of us who like that spirituality and science come together. Join us and have a great day being yourself, mindfully with flaws and imperfections. We might be back with more. In the meantime, thanks for stopping by.